All right. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you today. My name is Jishu Shi, and I'm working at Kansas State University. I'm not a endocrinologist, so this reminds me to go to a department seminar. My department is very diverse, so a lot of times the talk may not be totally relevant to what I do. I feel that's maybe the situation here for you. So this is the questions that you have, that why the speaker is here, give a talk, sometimes because relate to someone or know somebody. Why did speaker choose, I'm more interested in the second question, actually, choose to study his or her research topics. So I'm hoping to share with you more on the second question when you have a couple minutes. So why was I invited here? Again, I'm not an endocrinologist. So also I wanted to be to study actual neuroendocrinology. My first international presentation actually 30 years ago was about neuropeptide hormone, beta endorphin. So I did have interest at the time. And in the last 15 years, first I taught animal histology, some of the portion of the endocrinology functions and the histology, and I taught glucose metabolism from 2008 to 18 to the first year student at K-State as well. So I know a little bit. So I'm brief enough to come here and talk to you but not about endocrinology. So what did I do? What I've been doing in the last 10 or 15 years is more on developing vaccines for pigs and their owners. For pigs, it's important that the vaccines are safe and efficacious, but also has to be affordable to the pig owners. So our lab is lucky in the last 10 years. So we've been supported by 11 million extra mutual fund. In the last 3 years, been very busy. We have 22 extramural grants, $4.5 million US. So quite a busy time. So if you have a few minutes, I want to just explain to you. I think what we find out is really the hormones play an important role in ASF control. I'll explain to you why. ASF is a deadly disease and can cause a lot of economic loss to various stakeholders, not just the crop producers. When it comes to ASF prevention and control, the best plan, laid plan can go wrong. So, and also there's no commercial ASF vaccine yet. I think science is not the most difficult part, seem to be it's the people that working around the pigs. So we need to understand the role that hormones play in shaping human behaviors. Unfortunately, I don't have any data on that. I'm going to share with you some of the phenomena or the things I observed. So the major topic in the next 30 minutes is really about what is ASF. So was an ASF outbreak in China, in Asia? That's the topic in the last 4 years. Is it that inevitable? Or how to live with ASF for swine producers without a safe and efficacious vaccine, and how to develop a successful plan for ASF control moving forward. So ASF, again, is African swine fever. It's a highly contagious disease and usually have about 100% death rate, mortality rate. And usually you can see here, this is outside, usually have hemorrhagic in the lung and organ and intestine. So the difficulty is right now for the control, there's no vaccine available. So not like classical swine fever. So even for people who work in the field of swine production, sometimes it still get confused with African swine fever, with classical swine fever, and swine flu. So those three are totally different diseases. African swine fever is a DNA virus. So, and if a simple thing is classical swine fever also have very similar symptoms or clinical signs, is a positive strand RNA virus. They're different. And the flu, swine flu, is totally different from the other two swine fever viruses. It's a negative strain RNA virus. So there are three different diseases. So how ASF is transmitted among the pigs. So basically there are two populations. You can see there was domestic pigs in the production or the wild pigs. So in the past, mostly in rural areas, soft tick could be because soft tick can be a host for the virus, could play a role in wild pig infection, but majority in the day's industrial production of porks, pig-to-pig contact, as well, mostly the transmission or infection is caused by pigs consumed contaminated materials, food, or contact with human that caused that problem. So if you look at ASF migration, was discovered 100 years ago in Africa. First time left the continent to Europe is 1957. So about 30 years later, show up in Europe, and in another 20 years in the 70s, 80s, got to South America and Central America. But they were controlled, eliminated actually in Americas. So it's not a problem. Until 2007, it showed up in Europe again. This time it stayed for another 10 years until 2018, it entered China. So I think by then, African swine fever really found a good place to stay because it grows very fast, transmits very fast from China to Southeast Asia and to almost all Asia now. So it's in this year, even happened, detected in Europe, in Germany, in domestic pigs now, also in the Central or South America. Again, this is in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So just a few months ago in their pigs. So that's become a dangerous situation now because they're so close to the US mainland. So that's a brief summary about what is ASF. So if you look at the mainly topic people are talking about in this area is about, why China couldn't control that or did not prevent, didn't know that it's going to happen to them since it's been in Europe for 10 years before it got to China. So my perspective on ASF, mainly in the last 10 years, is really developed from many of the days I travel, since US does not have ASF. So my research focuses on where I go to, where the ASF or CSFs are in those countries. So, and those are many trips to China, Europe, and other Asian countries as well. So I want to show you, share with you several stories about during the travel. So just to know how difficult ASF control is, because different people, even experts, have different opinions. So my first trip about related to ASF is 2012. This is a USDA sponsored trip to China. At the time, we were not studying ASF, we're studying PRRS to figure out why the highly virulent porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome virus caused so much trouble in China a few years before that, and how China controlled that. So, but it's in this trip, we visited Beijing and Wuhan, two cities and several places. When we're in Beijing, we visit two places. One is the China Agricultural University Vet School, and the other one is their China Animal Disease Control Center. So you can see both regarded as experts in China as the swine disease control institutions. The associate dean at the vet school, he did not think ASF is the big problem. If it comes, we can just call the pigs, eradicate them quickly. That shouldn't be a problem. But that's not the perception or perspective from the China Animal Disease Control Center. And they think that could be a big concern because they're responsible for border to detect the ASF virus and if it's get into China. So, so those two groups have different opinions about ASF, how dangerous it is. Around the time 2007, the first time that European countries like Georgia get to be introduced ASF first in those wild-type pigs, then in domestic pigs, Armenia, and about a year later got to Russia. 2009 got to Russia, and by 2017 it's very close to China actually. So this is in part of the Russia that's not far from China. And if you travel to that part of the world, you know that between China and Russia, they have a lot of transportation connections. So they have this Trans-Siberian train travel almost every day from Russia to China. So, and you all know that there's some on the train tracks, there's areas, there's those cities, some of the cities is where the ASF outbreak happened. And then you can also see, this is just pull a train schedule from Moscow to Beijing. And you can see that there are many trains, almost some of the trains are daily, some of the trains are weekly. But again, on the train station, people exchange for food. And that's a sure way you can get ASF contaminated meat on the train and get into China. So did the Chinese government know ASF was dangerous? Based on the information published online, I can see that they do know. So there are multiple ASF-specific national policies, emergency drilled from 2012 to 2017 being conducted. So they have official plans to prevent ASF and they even have the drills. I will show you that those are the plans in Chinese. So those are the drills they published, around the borders between China and Russia. So it surely was a concern on their mind. They thought they had a plan to prevent that happen, but that did not happen. That's not the story really. So how ASF was introduced to China? Again, the first confirmed ASF outbreak in China was August 1st, 2018 in Shenyang. As in the part of China that's not too far from Russia, actually, that's Shenyang. So this is Russia, as you can see. So, and again, we think that may not be the first exactly, but that first confirmed the case, okay? So how ASF was introduced to China? This is, again, my speculation. Again, I'm using the public available information to you, to everybody. So this is on May 18th, 2018. So there's a trip by a group of 6 trucks, I believe, 2 buses that's carrying Chinese goods to Russia. And this is when they returned on June the 11th. Okay, all this information is publicly available. When it was confirmed, again, is August the 1st. So it's just a few weeks later. So this is where the truck road is from Dalian, China, to all the way go to the new Siberia in Russia, and they come back, the same road they come back. But this is where the ASF first confirmed the case is. So in the city in Shenyang. So it is also troubling is that the first case was in Shenyang, but the second case, the second is 12 days later, is 13 kilometers south of Shenyang. So this is in Henan province. So that's second case being detected. So clearly, I don't believe pigs can run that fast themselves for 12 days and go there. So, and it's even more troubling is that ASF spreads to the whole country just in about 3 months. Okay, it doesn't take very long to do that. So today, if you look at where the ASFs are around the world. So we know this is before 2018, Asia did not have, except part of Russia has now. So almost every part of Russia has ASF. Every part of Asia has ASF. And this year, just a few months ago, that ASF was also detected in the domestic pigs in Germany, as well as in Dominican Republic and Haiti. So just a couple weeks ago. So, and this situation become even more dangerous, I think, once going to North America. So that's become a big concern. So was ASF outbreak in Asia or in China inevitable? I think it is. I think there are three reasons for that. First is there are very limited preparation for ASF research before 2018. Okay. There was no high containment biosafety 3-level research facility in China that was available for animal studies on ASF before July 2018. As you can see, this is the first Chinese BSL-3 facility in the government that is capable to do ASF research in animal, but that's become online to use is August 8th, 2018. That's 1 week the first case was confirmed. So there's not much investment in ASF research. And the other is false security, I think. CSF, classical swine fever, foot and mouth disease, FMD in short, those are two highly contagious diseases of the swine as well. And they are largely controlled in China, mainly because both diseases have effective, safe vaccines. So by mass vaccination, they can control it. So a lot of false security happening in a lot of people's mind, governmental expert, they think they can control ASF just like they control CSF and foot and mouth disease. But the problem is there's no vaccine for ASF, not like the other two diseases. And the false optimism, okay. So they also think maybe just Europe was able to eradicate it in the 1990s. So it's not hard to do that. Imagine the day they just can quickly control it by culling the pigs of infected with the virus. One of the experts said in 2012, just nuke it, no need to worry. So those are false optimism, I think, and false security. So that's really consequently not many people seriously to study ASF in China before 2018. But that's not the situation after 2018. I'm showing you here on these slides. There are 3 meetings. The first meeting was in March. These are 3 meetings that I attended just in 2019. So the first one is March 12th. This one is in Beijing. The left side was organized by European scientists and European embassy. This happened at the EU embassy in Beijing. So it's invitation only. Only the experts that they saw from Europe and all over the world actually come to Beijing to talk about how to control it. The second one is just 1 week later, I went to a meeting. Actually, I didn't know that I was going to a meeting about ASF. My trip that time is in addition to the Beijing meeting, I want to look at how AI, artificial intelligence, was used in swine production in China. So I went to in Nanjing because the company's CEO asked me to go there. I didn't realize actually they were having an ASF control meeting, but this is the meeting I attend. At the end of the month, that with the support from USDA, that we organized a ASF international meeting also in China, in Wuhan, Inner Mongolia. So this is the meeting that I have helped organized. So with experts from the international community as well. So when it's get into China, August 2018. So by early 2019, there's a panic mode because millions of pigs has been lost, okay? And there's no vaccine available. So everybody trying to figure out how to do it. So the direct economic loss, this is by color. Okay, this is not my research, actually was a very recent publication from China that published in Nature Food just a couple weeks ago, and showing you that those are the direct loss. I mean, those are how pigs. Those are the dark colored one or deep bright color. That means they have more pigs lost due to ASF. This is just happened in 2019. This is not all the years, just a few years. Okay, and the indirect loss would include many other industry and also consumer behaviors associated with swine production due to the ASF loss. So the loss are billions, okay, trillions, billions, hundreds of billion Chinese yuan and US dollars as well. So I think that there's a number on that. So the direct loss from this direct financial loss is just in 1 year, based on different scenario, is as at least $9 billion US dollars to could be as worse as 20 billion US dollars, just to the pig swine industry direct loss. But economic loss range from almost 90 billion US dollars to 196 billion US dollars. So that's, and is about 1% China's GDP in 2019. So it's one disease, but the damage is huge. Okay, if you look at the impact, and so this is in all the data is from this paper that listed on this slide. So by middle 2019, even less than a year already, tens of millions of pigs lost in a few months after the first outbreak in China. The loss and disruption is created soon become really unbearable for two reasons. One is the social economic impact associated with increased pork price. First, there's the lower price because everybody tried to get rid of the pig because they know it's going to come to them, they're going to lose pigs. But then there's no pigs, no pork to sell. So the pork price goes up quickly. And the second one is because initially they were following the policy from OIE, which is called a lot of pigs. Basically, if a farm has detected with infected with ASF, they will basically eradicate all the pigs on the farm. That become very difficult for many reasons, but not environmental risk associated with disposing thousands, even maybe tens of thousands of pigs on a farm in a very short period of time. There's no place to put them. So then they have a new policy started called target culling or pull the bad tools. So basically they're not going to kill all the pigs, even there's ASF on the farm. So they're going to try to keep some pigs. That's why there's no pigs to sell or to raise. And that's a policy that's usually not supported by OIE, by most of the infectious disease control expert. But that's what's happening in China in 2019 and 2020, even today. So there are many reasons, many factors that can cause ASF introduction into a swine farm. So I just listed 10 of them. Again, a lot of them are associated with people, not necessarily pigs. And then in the industrial setting, they have more control the movement of the pigs within the farm, but there's outside the farm, there's very difficult. I often say that pigs do not walk, so human are the weakest link in the security channel of swine production when you look at the biosecurity. So again, as you can see, no matter where in even the quarantine area, in guarding the place that no people or pig go into certain areas, or on the farm that people are the most close contact with pigs. So. And this is a swine farm, what you see here. Okay, this is not a hotel in China. This is how many places raise pigs now in China. A very remote mountain area on top of the mountain. This is already in production. This is building more facilities to produce pigs. So that's what's happening in China in the last few years. But also, we mentioned earlier that ASF has been introduced to Southeast Asia. There are two different stories. In Vietnam, very similar to China, has a little bit larger population of pigs, just 40 million pigs per year. China, on the other hand, a lot more than that. Half of the pigs, almost half of the pigs in the world were produced in China. It'll be 400 million to 600 million, depending on the time or the year you can look at. So there's a lot more pigs in China, but Vietnam have similar situation. So they got quickly infected by ASF after in 2019, and still very bad today. But on the other hand, in Thailand, so far, there's no government confirmed ASF. Also, Vietnam claimed that some pigs transported from Thailand to Vietnam may have been detected as ASF. So far, it seems to be Thailand has a better control of ASF. Also, it's surrounded by all those ASF endemic countries. So there's something we need to study there. So what we learned from Asia, basically, based on also how other countries in the past they eradicate the ASF. I think there's three questions need to be policies. Government really need to think about this. What will happen if the government does not compensate swine producers and when you're trying to cull their pigs, control the ASF, and how can swine farmers properly cull or dispose thousands of pigs in a short period of time? And how should processing plants for slaughterhouses, when they have those ASF positive pigs, what should they do? So a lot of them are not science, it's more economic programs or government policies. And the other important part is ensure the cooperation of all stakeholders of the swine production, animal health companies, swine producers. They should only use authorized ASF vaccines. So far, there's no, so they should not use anything that's not safe. I think the ASF control become much more difficult now in China because unauthorized or unsafe, actually dangerous attenuated ASF virus as a vaccine or experimental vaccine was introduced to the farm, and that make even the pull the tooth strategy much more difficult, become effective. So, and the veterinarians, again, they should not use the vaccine the first place. So that's, nobody should produce, transport, sell, or consume ASF positive pigs. So there's many different reasons since happened in the past in China, but human play an important role. Again, today when we look at ASF, it's already close to the North America, so become a difficult situation right now all over the world. What we need to do now? So I think I used to give presentations to veterinarians, government officials, in this case, and swine producers. So one of the things is I think we need to invest in research. We need to know the enemy, the disease, and the pathogen. So supporting innovative research. Fortunately, I think in the last 3 years, I've seen a lot of money get into ASF research. I mentioned earlier, we've been very fortunate that get a lot of support from around the world, industry and government to study ASF. But we wish that happened 10 years ago, where there's more support. The other is science and technology, I think is not enough. So really the government at all levels develop science-based and economic sensible policies on disease outbreak control. And the third thing is the transboundary nature of the emerging diseases, right? We require global cooperation, not just in outbreak management, but also in research for a more broader biomedical, social, and ecological understanding of the disease. So there's more collaboration is needed, especially for the US. We want to know what's really happening around the world and what works, what did not. So my summary on ASF is, I think in the past, before 2018, people always think, I think a lot of people agree that Africa's swine fever, ASF will stay in Africa or Europe. In the last 3 or 4 years, I think that perspective has changed. ASF will be in Asia and Europe for a while. biosafety practice determine the success or failure of a swine farm. So this would be the case. I hope it never come to the North America, but for anybody who work with swine production, make sure that you have a biosafety practice that's going to prevent, at least limit the possibility of ASF introduction. Need to have an ASF vaccine that is as good as the C strain for classical swine fever, which means safe and efficacious and very cheap to make. So right now, the problem is the attenuated ASF vaccine, not vaccine, really the virus are causing more harm than the wild type virus in Asia. So that's, again, I mentioned it's gone to Haiti and Dominican Republic. So we need to be on alert now. I know our government is on alert for that. So ASF can be effectively controlled if we all follow, the suggestions, the policies we talk about. Many of my points were just published earlier this year in Animal Frontiers. It's a journal, I think, sponsored by American Animal Science Association. This is this issue that we talk about. Even the best laid plan for control African swine fever or classical swine fever can be wrong. May not work. So in the real situation, I think, go back to earlier the point I have, I think human behavior is hard to predict. You all know hormones for reproduction mean something to that, play a role there. Here, this comes to the end of my presentation. Obviously, my research is have a lot of sponsors from K-State. This is the people from my lab, current people in my lab, and also the highlight ones are from USDA, as well as I have from international collaborators. Again, most of my funding come from the NBAF related funding and animal health companies and from USDA. I can go back. Well, thank you. I think I maybe end a little bit earlier. So in case you have questions, so we can, hopefully I can entertain your questions. Thank you for your attention.